Banana Fish is a refreshingly dramatic anime that I highly recommend, which is surprising knowing me, since it has virtually no waifu. Why is that? Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Today, I want to shine a spotlight on Banana Fish, a rather obscure yet brilliant new anime based off an 80s manga. Don't let the name fool you. It's a literary reference to a work from J.D. Salinger, much like how Ghost in the Shell makes references to Catcher in the Rye. The premise and follow-through are both compelling. Crime in New York is rampant, with gang violence abound, along with the corruption of the Corsican mafia. Our protagonist, Ash Lynx, is a young yet talented gang leader who comes across a dying man on the streets who hands him a suspicious drug, his final words being banana fish. This strikes a chord with Ash, since he has an older brother who's been in a mindless daze ever since he came back from war. The only words his brother ever speaks happen to be banana fish. Thus, Ash begins to investigate the drug, leading him to confront his greatest foe, the mafia don Dino Goldzine, the man who kidnapped him as a child, had him educated, trained in combat, and forced into child prostitution. Can Ash manage to go against the man who's held his leash for so long? His only solace is Eiji, a former athlete from Japan who's accompanying his mentor on a photography job. Eiji, who's never had to deal with violent crime in America, finds himself bound by fate to Ash, and the two friends struggle to stay together in their corrupt world. If that doesn't pique your curiosity, I don't know what will. It's an anime that deals with issues of patriarchy, masculine dominance, male vulnerability, and homoeroticism, all in a very passionate and mature manner. It has stunning animation and a driving soundtrack. Assuming it has a legit ending, this is quite possibly a legendary anime on my recommendation scale. That said, while watching, I always contemplate this question: where are all the women? Why does this anime have an almost exclusively male cast? More thematically, it had me thinking, are there certain stories that can only be told through men? Assuming our culture were ideally progressive, men, women, transgender, or otherwise, people could exist in society without having any expectation of their behavior. Gang life wouldn't be something exclusive or catered to men in any way. Certain conversations that would only occur between men behind closed doors, locker room conversations, dialogue in the absence of women, really wouldn't be a thing. However, whether you're talking about the 80s when the manga was written, or even today, most cultures still affect and condition the lives of men and women respectively. Concepts of femininity and masculinity still exist. Whether a man chooses to conform to society's definition of masculinity, therefore becomes one of his defining features. Ash is a very intriguing character. He was forced to be a sex slave to older men, featured in some illicit child pornography tapes. Homosexuality has become normal for him, yet at the same time, he engages in heteronormative, machismo activities, such as gun and knife fights for territory dominance on the streets. While it's certainly plausible for a female to behave the exact same way, having gone through identical circumstances, there appears to be inherent meaning in the fact that a male would have such development. Going back to a progressive ideal, you could take an anime like Free and replace the entire male cast with women, and still have the same events transpire, even a male-female mix. The platonic relationships, the teamwork bonding, the sentimentality, even the rivalries could totally occur between them. Heck, a lot of it might be more believable if it starred women. But even on a cosmetic level, I think the distinction of the character's sex makes for a completely different show. You could also look at the bro trip video game Final Fantasy XV, which focuses on the platonic friendship and brotherhood of four men traveling across the land. It would be sexist to say that women couldn't have a similar narrative. There's nothing stopping the creators from swapping those guys for girls, but there's an aesthetic value to the current setup that already exists. Take an anime like Harukana Receive, which is exclusively female. It's not that we can't have effeminate men bonding over volleyball in the same way, but there's at least an emotive quality or appeal to the all-female cast. Even if men and women can behave exactly the same way, the sex of your characters still leaves an emotional impact on the experience. Obviously, Banana Fish is a very gay anime, definitely able to appeal to the yaoi crowd, despite that not being its primary focus. Sexism aside, There's an appealing quality about men showing their vulnerability and sharing their emotions, the same way as there's an appeal for women acting more tomboyish and assertive. So where are all the waifu? Well, the creators of Banana Fish simply want to develop the appeal of their male characters. Even if they could inject more active female characters, it would change the aesthetic value of the series. Gender politics don't even have to come into play. We as creators and viewers simply have preferences. Now, that was my main talking point, but I'd also like to discuss the main thematic pull in Banana Fish, and that's the concept of vulnerability. In the anime, everyone has something or someone precious to them, and in almost every case, that's used against them. Whether it's a friend, family, or romantic interest, what's dear to you can be taken hostage, held at knife or gunpoint, to force you into submission, no matter how strong you are. Essentially, having something you care about makes you weak, vulnerable to abuse. Yet, it's this weakness that makes life and its pursuits worthwhile. Ash is a survivor, learning and doing whatever it takes to stay alive in his crime-ridden city. He remarks that he doesn't fear death, and that's probably why he's so competent. But after he meets Eiji, he suddenly has someone to live for, a reason to stay alive, which, ironically, makes his effort to survive so much harder. Both Ash and Eiji are kidnapped and held hostage, each time knocking on death's door for the chance to save one another. A lot of the tension could be alleviated if Eiji would just fly back to Japan away from the danger, but he'd rather die for Ash than live without him. When Ash is at his worst, Eiji is there to keep him sane. In that regard, there's a strength in their vulnerability, which can easily extend to a philosophy that's relevant to our lives. If you have no attachments, you can survive, but what's the point in living if you have nothing to live for? It's really hard to put my finger on it, but I think it's a story that's better told through men than women in this case. But what do you think? That's profound, right? Seriously, even if you aren't a fan of yaoi, since I sure as hell ain't, consider checking this one out. At the moment, it's available for streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Now, for our discussion, are there any anime you'd enjoy just as much, if not more, if all the main characters were gender swapped? Do you think there's an appeal to having an all-male or female cast? If so, what is that appeal? I look forward to reading your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, live streams, and the holy waifu wars. If you're interested in seeing this channel grow, please consider becoming a patron or donating in a super chat during any of my weekly live streams. Also, feel free to check the description for my social media profiles, including an ever-growing Discord full of fans of anime and the Fate series. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.